My brother pulled into the driveway in a brand new Toyota, keys jingling in his hand like Christmas bells. I watched from my bedroom window as my parents took selfies with him. Then Mum knocked on my door with an envelope. "Victoria, your rent bill for this month." But I had news for them too. "Hey everyone, I'm Victoria. I'm 22 years old, and I work as a medical assistant at a pediatric clinic here in Portland. I've been saving every penny for the past 2 years to eventually go back to school for nursing. I wasn't born with a silver spoon, and my family never let me forget it. Growing up, I was the middle child, sandwiched between my older brother Jake and my younger sister Emma. While Jake got the sports scholarships and Emma got the princess treatment, I learnt to be invisible. I kept my head down, worked part-time jobs since I was 16, and somehow convinced myself that being the responsible one meant I didn't deserve the same love and support as my siblings. I lived at home to save money for school, paid rent to my parents every month like a tenant, and watched them shower my brother with gifts for simply existing. But what they didn't know was that I had something they never expected from their forgotten middle child. If you've ever been the overlooked sibling in your family, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to hear your story because I know I'm not alone in this. Your experiences matter, and this community is here for you. The day that changed everything started like any other Tuesday morning. I was getting ready for work when I heard car doors slamming and excited voices in the driveway. Through my window, I watched my parents rush outside like they were greeting a celebrity. My brother Jake had just graduated from community college with his associate degree in general studies. Not exactly Harvard, but you'd think he'd cured cancer by the way my parents acted. Dad was practically bouncing on his toes as Jake climbed out of a shiny new Toyota Camry, metallic blue with that new car smell you could probably detect from space. "Surprise," Mom screamed, throwing her arms around Jake like he'd just returned from war. "We're so proud of our college graduate." I stood there in my scrubs, coffee mug in hand, watching this scene unfold. This was the same Jake who had failed 2 classes, switched majors 3 times, and took an extra year to finish a 2-year program. The same Jake who had never worked a day in his life because school was his job. Dad handed him the keys with tears in his eyes. "You earned this, son. This is what happens when you follow through on your education." Meanwhile, I had been on the dean's list every semester at my community college while working 30 hours a week. I graduated with honors, no fanfare, no gifts, just a good for you text from Mum while she was at Jake's graduation party. But the real slap in the face came an hour later. As I was heading out the door for work, Mum intercepted me in the hallway. "Victoria, honey, I need to talk to you." She handed me a white envelope with my name written in her careful handwriting. "Your rent for this month." I stared at the envelope. $400, same as always. The same $400 I'd been paying religiously for the past 2 years, while living in what was essentially a converted storage room in the basement. "Mum," I said slowly, "Jake just got a brand new car worth what, $20,000? And you're charging me rent to live in the basement?" She huffed and crossed her arms. "That's different, Victoria. Jake graduated. He accomplished something. We invested in his future." Her words hit me like ice water. "Your situation is temporary. This is his reward for finishing school." "I graduated too, Mum. I worked full-time and graduated with honors." "That's not the same thing," she snapped. "You chose to live here. You could move out anytime you want." That's when I realized she was right about one thing. I could move out anytime I wanted, and I was about to. Over the next 3 weeks, the favoritism became impossible to ignore. It was like someone had turned up the volume on a song I'd been trying not to hear my entire life. Jake's new car became the centerpiece of every family conversation. Dad would wash it every weekend. Mum would post pictures of it on Facebook with captions like, "So proud of our graduate." Meanwhile, my 10-year-old Honda Civic sat in the street because the good parking spots in the driveway were reserved for the family cars, which apparently didn't include mine. The breaking point came during our monthly family dinner. Dad was going on about how Jake was exploring his options for a 4-year university, all expenses paid, of course. Emma chimed in about how she couldn't wait to get her own car when she turned 16 next year. "What about Victoria?" Emma asked innocently. "She's been working and going to school. Doesn't she get anything?" The silence was deafening. Mum cleared her throat and gave me that patronizing smile I'd grown to hate. "Victoria has chosen a different path, sweetheart. She's very independent. She doesn't need our help like Jake does. I don't need your help. I set my fork down harder than necessary. I pay you rent. I buy my own groceries. I pay for my own gas, insurance, phone bill, and tuition. What exactly am I getting from this family that Jake isn't getting 10 times over? Dad looked uncomfortable. Victoria, that's not fair. Jake is transitioning into adulthood. He needs our support right now. He's 24, Dad. When does the transition end? Jake finally spoke up, not even looking away from his phone. Hi. Look, V. It's not my fault you chose to go into healthcare instead of getting a real degree. Mum and Dad are investing in my potential. The words hung in the air like poison gas. A real degree. I was studying to become a nurse, to help save lives, and my brother dismissed it like I was getting a certificate in basket weaving. But the real humiliation came 2 days later when I overheard Mum talking to her sister on the phone in the kitchen. Oh, Victoria. She's fine. Just working some little medical job. Nothing serious like Jake's education. She's always been the practical one, you know? Not really ambitious like her brother. We're trying to help her understand that she needs to contribute if she wants to live here. Can't baby her forever. I stood frozen in the doorway, grocery bags cutting into my hands. My little medical job where I helped families navigate their children's illnesses. My not really ambitious pursuit of a nursing career while working full-time. My contribution of $400 a month to live in their basement like a tenant. That weekend, Jake threw a party to celebrate his new car. They let him invite 30 people to our backyard, bought catered food, and even hired a DJ. I was asked to help clean up afterward, of course. No invitation to the party, just the cleanup crew. As I picked up red Solo cups and pizza boxes, I watched Jake getting congratulated by relatives I barely saw anymore. Uncle Tom patted him on the back and said, "Your parents really know how to treat their kids right." Aunt Sarah nodded enthusiastically. They've always been so generous with Jake's education. He's so lucky to have parents who believe in him. I dumped another armload of trash into the bag and felt something inside me snap. Lucky. Jake was lucky. But what was I? The final straw came Monday morning when I found a passive-aggressive note taped to my door. Victoria, rent is due today. Please don't make us ask again. Also, can you take care of the dishes? Jake has job interviews this week and needs to focus. Thanks, Mum. Job interviews. Jake hadn't worked a day in his life, but he needed to focus on job interviews while I continued my actual job and did the housework. That's when I realized something my parents had never bothered to figure out. I had been planning my escape route for months. While they were busy investing in Jake's potential, I had been building something they knew nothing about. What they didn't know was that their unambitious daughter had been accepted to a nursing program at a university 3 states away. What they didn't know was that I'd saved enough money for the first year's tuition and living expenses. And what they really didn't know was that I'd already found an apartment and put down a deposit. They thought I'd stay forever, paying rent in their basement, cleaning up after their golden boy. But I wasn't done yet. What my family didn't understand was that being ignored had taught me something valuable: how to be completely self-reliant. While Jake was learning how to charm my parents into paying for everything, I was learning how to make things happen for myself. For months, I'd been secretly planning my future. Every night after work, instead of watching Netflix or scrolling social media like Jake, I'd been researching nursing programs, scholarships, and job opportunities in different cities. I had spreadsheets tracking my savings, application deadlines, and even apartment listings in college towns hundreds of miles away. The medical clinic where I worked had become more than just a job. Dr. Martinez, the pediatrician who ran the practice, had noticed my dedication and attention to detail. What started as small compliments turned into longer conversations about my career goals. She began giving me additional responsibilities, letting me observe procedures, and eventually offered to write me a recommendation letter that could open doors anywhere in the country. 3 months earlier, while my parents were busy planning Jake's graduation party, I'd been accepted into the nursing program at Pacific Coast University in San Diego. Full-ride scholarship based on my grades, work experience, and Dr. Martinez's glowing recommendation. They'd even offered me a part-time position at the university's medical center to help cover living expenses. I'd already secured an apartment near campus with 2 other nursing students, put down the deposit, and arranged for my mail to be forwarded. My Honda Civic might be 10 years old, but I'd been maintaining it perfectly for the cross-country drive I was planning. The best part? I'd done it all without asking my parents for a single dollar or even a word of encouragement. While they were telling everyone how independent I was proving them right in ways they never imagined. I had acceptance letters, financial aid documents, and apartment leases hidden in a folder under my mattress. Jake might have gotten a car for graduating, but I'd earned myself an entirely new life. They thought they knew their practical, unambitious daughter, but they were about to learn that being underestimated had given me something more powerful than any gift they'd ever given Jake, the absolute determination to succeed without them. What they didn't know was that I was leaving in 2 weeks, and they were going to find out in the most shocking way possible. Dr. Martinez became more than just my boss. She became the mentor I'd never had at home. 3 days before I planned to tell my family about my acceptance to Pacific Coast University, she called me into her office after our last patient of the day. "Victoria, I've been thinking about our conversation regarding your nursing program," she said, settling into her chair across from me. "Have you told your family about San Diego yet?" I shook my head. "Not yet. I'm planning to tell them this weekend." She studied my face with the same careful attention she gave her young patients. "You know, in 30 years of practice, I've learned that family reactions to big news can be unpredictable, especially when there are existing dynamics at play." That afternoon, she did something that shocked me. She printed out every commendation letter she'd written about my work, every positive patient review that mentioned me by name, and even a letter from the hospital where I'd done my clinical rotations, praising my professionalism and skill. "Take these home," she said, sliding the folder across her desk. "Sometimes people need to see evidence of what they haven't been paying attention to." Dr. Martinez wasn't the only one who'd noticed the situation at home. My co-worker Jessica, who was only a year older than me, had become a close friend over the past 6 months. She'd heard enough stories about Jake's car and my rent payments to understand the dynamic. "Girl, you need to document everything," she told me during our lunch break that Thursday. "I'm serious. When you tell them you're leaving, they're going to try to make you feel guilty or crazy. Write down dates, amounts, all the ways they've treated you differently." That evening, while my family was out celebrating Jake's first job interview callback, which he got through Dad's golf buddy, I sat in my basement room and made a timeline. Every birthday where Jake got a party and I got a card. Every Christmas where his gifts filled half the living room while mine fit in a small pile. Every time I was asked to help out while Jake was told to focus on his studies. But the real tension started building Friday night when Mum cornered me in the kitchen while I was making dinner for myself. "Victoria, your father and I have been talking," she began, using that tone that meant she'd made a decision about my life without consulting me. "We think you should consider staying local for your nursing degree. There's a program at the community college that would be much more affordable. You could keep working at the clinic and living here. It makes financial sense." I stirred my pasta and didn't look up. What brought this on? Jake mentioned that some of his friends' parents are struggling with empty nest syndrome. "We realized we'd miss having you around." She paused. "Plus, your rent helps with the mortgage." There it was, the truth hiding behind the suddenly sentimental words. They weren't worried about missing me. They were worried about missing my monthly payments and free household labor. "That's thoughtful of you to think about it," I said carefully. "Let me consider my options." What they didn't know was that my options had already been decided months ago, and none of them included staying in this house another day longer than necessary. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of crisp fall air that makes everything feel possible. I'd scheduled my big reveal for family breakfast, that sacred weekly tradition where we all pretended to be a normal, loving family for exactly 1 hour. Jake was running late, as usual, so I sat at the kitchen table watching Mum flip pancakes while Dad read news on his tablet. The folder from Dr. Martinez sat on my lap, along with my acceptance letter, scholarship information, and apartment lease agreement. "Where's your brother?" Mom asked, checking the clock. "His pancakes are getting cold." "He's probably still celebrating last night," I said. Jake had gotten the job at Dad's friend's marketing company, entry level, but they were treating it like he'd been elected president. When Jake finally stumbled downstairs in yesterday's clothes, Mum immediately started fussing over him. "Honey, do you want fresh pancakes? These ones aren't warm anymore, and there's bacon. And I got that expensive syrup you like. I watched this performance while cutting my single pancake into precise pieces. This was it, the moment everything changed. Actually, I have some news I want to share with everyone, I said, setting down my fork. Dad looked up from his tablet. Oh, did you get a promotion at the clinic? Better than that. I pulled out the acceptance letter, my hands steadier than I'd expected. I've been accepted to the nursing program at Pacific Coast University in San Diego. Full scholarship. The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Jake was the first to speak. Wait, what? When did you even apply to schools? I thought you were planning to stay local. I've been planning this for over a year, I said, looking directly at my parents. I applied to several programs, but Pacific Coast offered me the best package. Full tuition coverage, plus a part-time job at their medical center. Mom's face went through several expressions before settling on what I recognized as controlled panic. Victoria, this is very sudden. Don't you think you should have discussed this with us first? Like you discussed Jake's car with me. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I wasn't backing down now. Or like you discussed charging me rent while paying for his entire education. Dad set his tablet down. That's not the same thing, Victoria. Jake's situation is different. He needed our support to get established. I opened Dr. Martinez's folder and spread the contents across the table. Letters of recommendation, patient commendations, performance reviews, documentation of additional certifications I'd earned on my own time and dime. This is what I've been doing while Jake was getting established, I said, building a career, earning recognition, and proving I don't need anyone's financial support to succeed. Mum picked up one of the letters, her eyes scanning the glowing review from a patient's mother, whose diabetic daughter I'd helped during a scary emergency. Victoria, this is wonderful, but San Diego is so far away and expensive. Wouldn't it be smarter to stay here where you have support? What support? The question hung in the air like a challenge. The support of paying you rent to live in your basement? The support of doing everyone else's chores while Jake focuses on his future? Or maybe the support of watching my brother get rewarded for mediocrity while my achievements go unnoticed? Jake finally looked uncomfortable. There, come on, don't be dramatic. Dramatic, I laughed, and it sounded foreign even to me. Jake, in the past year, you've received a $20,000 car, had all your college expenses paid, got handed a job through Dad's connections, and live rent-free in the nicest bedroom in the house. I've paid this family $4,800 in rent, maintained a 4.0 GPA, worked 30 hours a week, and earned a full scholarship to one of the best nursing programs on the West Coast. Which one of us is being dramatic? The numbers hit the table like evidence in a courtroom. Dad cleared his throat. Victoria, we appreciate everything you've accomplished, but family means what, Dad? Because from where I'm sitting, family means I pay to live here while Jake gets paid to live here. I pulled out my lease agreement and set it on top of the other papers. I moved to San Diego in 1 week. The week that followed was a masterclass in selective hearing and desperate bargaining. Suddenly, my parents discovered they were proud of my accomplishments and always believed in my potential. Jake even offered to help me pack, which was generous considering he'd never helped me with anything in his life. But the real revelation came on my last morning at home. As I loaded my Honda Civic with everything I owned, Mum handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Your rent money back," she said quietly. "For the past 3 months." I looked at the $1,200 in cash and felt nothing. Not gratitude, not vindication, just emptiness where anger used to live. "Keep it," I said, handing it back. "Consider it my contribution to Jake's future." As I drove away, I caught sight of my parents in the rearview mirror, standing in the driveway, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. For the first time in my life, their disappointment didn't belong to me. I was finally free. 3 months later, I'm thriving in San Diego, making friends who value my ambition, and excelling in a program that challenges me every day. My family calls occasionally, usually when they need something or when Jake messes up again. If you've ever had to choose between your family's comfort and your own growth, I see you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I love connecting with people who understand this journey. Your dreams are worth more than other people's expectations. Hit subscribe if you believe that too, and I'll see you in the next story. You deserve better than settling for less than you're worth.